I am the real daughter in a story of a fake and real heiress. After my identity was exposed, I received no love from anyone but instead harvested countless hatred. Reborn once more, I decided to let it all go. I tossed aside the hospital's diagnosis and, with the little savings I had, began live streaming my journey toward death. Those family members who hated me to the core suddenly went crazy trying to find me, trying to save me, my biological parents, eyes red from tears yet not daring to come close, watched me climb the cliff and sit on a swaying swing, crying and shouting that they were wrong. My brother clutched a teddy bear from our childhood, his hands trembling with sobs. The once malicious sister cut her long hair, made it into a wig herself, and sent it to me, begging me to accept it, begging me to let her make amends. The fake heiress knelt beside my hospital bed, eyes filled with hatred she dared not show, repeatedly saying, "Sister, I'm sorry." Chapter 1. You have stomach cancer, the doctor said, holding my lab results, a hint of sympathy on his face. But there's hope for a cure. However, the costs will be quite high. The first hospital in our city has successfully treated many early-stage stomach cancer patients. I was reborn on the day I was diagnosed with stomach cancer. It was also the 18th day after my true heiress identity was exposed. I came to the hospital alone, thinking about the money in my account. I didn't make the same decision as in my previous life. In my past life, upon learning I had stomach cancer, I spiraled into a mental breakdown, desperately seeking a sense of existence. Bianca, the fake heiress, was busy with her global tour, and both families were proud of her. Wherever she went, they followed, even though we were switched at birth due to a nurse's mistake. An ordinary person like me couldn't compare to the dazzling Bianca. Between the two shining pearls, I was the one discarded. Indeed, I was the Li family's biological daughter, but I lived far less splendidly than Bianca, the fake heiress. She wasn't the Li family's real child, yet she received all their love and kindness. After being diagnosed with stomach cancer, I needed money for treatment and kept asking the Li family for help. Bianca accused me of excessive spending, suspecting I had developed a gambling habit, and both families stopped giving me money. To afford treatment, I had to find ways to make money. I started live streaming, attending ribbon-cutting events, striving for fame to get into various banquets. Treatment was expensive and painful. After chemotherapy, my hair fell out, and I could no longer go out to work. Desperate, I called Bianca to borrow money. She was abroad at the time. Upon hearing my plea, she hung up the phone. I told her I was in the late stages of stomach cancer and needed money for treatment. Not only did she refuse to lend me money, but she also told my biological parents that I had become addicted to drugs and was lying about having cancer to get money. From then on, no one believed me, even when I showed them my cancer diagnosis. They looked at me with mocking expressions, telling me to stop. Between the two families, I had nothing but myself, living like the villain in a story, pulling myself out of my memories. Aside from the diagnosis report in my hand, I had about 100,000 yuan left in my account. It seemed like a lot, but compared to the cost of cancer treatment, it was far too little. I returned to the Li family's villa. Bianca was enthusiastically telling everyone about her upcoming global tour. Her orchestra was going on a world tour this year. The Li family had pulled some strings for her to become a substitute violinist. Both families were happy for her. Everyone's attention was on her. See, she always drew everyone's gaze. No one cared about me, except Bianca. "Sister, are you happy for me too?" Bianca asked, wearing a pleated skirt, looking at me with a cheerful smile. Once again, words that stabbed right into my heart. "Happy for you. Good luck. Do your best. After all, you're just a substitute and might only get on stage once during the entire global tour." I walked away indifferently, returning to my room to start packing. In the final stretch of my life, I wanted to leave some beautiful memories for myself. Chapter 2. I had no plans to treat my illness. In the final days of my life, I wanted to travel the world. Chemotherapy was unbearably painful, even if it meant dying. I didn't want to experience that kind of agony and despair again. For my first stop, I went to Yunnan. Throughout the journey, I filmed and live-streamed, making the most of my time. I booked a highly rated local guest house, adorably decorated in the style of the Wizard of Oz. For once, I took a photo and posted it on Weibo. During meals, I started a live stream and chatted with a few scattered fans. Yunnan has a lot of delicious food, and the fruits are very sweet. I especially loved the fruit salad I bought, just over 10 yuan for a big box. Everything was fresh and juicy, and the sweet and sour flavors burst in my mouth, bringing immense joy. Some viewers commented that I didn't look well. I smiled and added some blush to my cheeks. There were many fun activities in Yunnan. I live streamed myself picking fruits, weaving flower crowns, and even paid to join mushroom pickers in the mountains. The mushroom soup was delicious. I drank 3 big bowls and then threw up. The viewers laughed at my gluttony, but only I knew the real reason. I stayed in Yunnan for half a month before my biological parents remembered my existence and gave me a call. Where are you? Bianca is about to start her global tour. You need to come back immediately. The tone on the other end was somewhat impatient, mixed with Bianca's coquettish voice. People in the live stream could hear my phone call. I smiled and stepped aside. You all go ahead. I won't be going. I have more important things to do. What could be more important? Said my second brother, Simon. In my previous life, he had slapped me for Bianca. At that time, I was already gravely ill. To survive, I swallowed my pride and knelt to beg Bianca for money for treatment. He pulled me up and slapped me, saying the Li family couldn't afford to lose face. I was indifferent. My tone relaxed as if discussing someone else's life and death. My life. What's more important than my own life? Simon was choked by my words and seemed to leave in anger. If you don't come back, I'll cut off your allowance, said my so-called biological father, Mario. I remained unfazed. Fine. Do as you wish. I didn't even care about dying. Why would I care about the allowance he gave me? When I returned to the live stream, a few sympathetic young fans asked if I was joking. I smiled, speared a large piece of mango, and put it in my mouth. Yes, it's a life-threatening illness, so you'd better cherish me while you can. A pretty girl like me is a sight you'll see less and less of. Amid laughter, those fatal topics were easily brushed aside. Everyone was saying I was narcissistic and telling others to leave, claiming something was off with me. Suddenly, a colorful comment floated by, you don't look well. Go to the hospital when you have time. Chapter 3. I packed my things, left Yunnan, and headed to my second stop, Suzhou. As soon as I arrived in Suzhou, I received urgent calls from my biological parents. I didn't answer. They probably just wanted to live stream Bianca's exciting moments abroad to me. I wasn't interested. There were just the right number of tourists in the Suzhou gardens. I specifically wore a traditional hanfu and even visited a styling studio for the full effect. To say something narcissistic, I looked like an ancient lady who had traveled through time. I held up my phone to live stream, occasionally answering a few questions from viewers. When one hand got tired, I switched to the other. My face briefly flashed across the camera. The colorful comment appeared again, right on cue. Have you been to the hospital? Given his generous comments, I couldn't help but check out this wealthy viewer's profile. Deep sea. With an avatar of a dark ocean, it looked quite oppressive. I withdrew my gaze, held up the bellflower I had just bought, and replied, I went. The doctor said it's nothing serious and I don't need to be hospitalized. Stomach cancer, whether I'm hospitalized or not doesn't matter. The wealthy viewer quieted down, and I nodded in satisfaction. I thought things would just pass like this. But the unexpected came abruptly. A new user appeared in the chat, using a default system avatar, frantically asking where I was. Other viewers answered for me, but it was as if he couldn't see them and kept obsessively asking me, where are you? Suddenly, the user typed out my name. Looking at that sudden comment, I felt chills down my spine. Who could it be? I couldn't figure out who could find me on such an obscure little streaming platform. Who are you? The person didn't respond but continued to flood the chat. Don't leave. Wait there. I'll come to pick you up and take you to the hospital. Hospital? I stared at those words, lost in thought. In both my past and present lives, I hadn't found anyone who could match up with this mysterious commenter. In my previous life, I fought desperately to be hospitalized, to stay alive. But no one was willing to help me. In this life, I didn't want to be hospitalized. Yet an unknown person appeared, saying they wanted to take me to the hospital. Such warm words. But they couldn't warm me. I was a drowning person, yearning to sink, unwilling to be saved. I'm fine. Just a bit anemic. No need to go to the hospital. I picked up the bellflower again and strolled leisurely through the Suzhou gardens. The colorful comment appeared once more. Deep Sea asked me, "Is your health really okay?" I cheerfully bought myself an ice cream. What could be wrong with me? Mind your own business. Suddenly, the screen was filled with large firework effects: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. All 7 colors exploded across the screen. Each firework gift cost 10,000 yuan. 7 fireworks meant 70,000 yuan. He kept sending them. Different colored fireworks blossomed on the screen, drawing countless viewers to the live stream to watch the special effects. And that user with the default system avatar sent a firework with each message, saying, "Don't leave, stay there and don't move. Big brother will take you to the hospital." Chapter 4. Brother? I have a brother? I clearly don't have a brother. Simon only has one sister, named Bianca. He said so himself. I remember it clearly. Originally, I was somewhat curious about this person, but now I felt deep disgust. I turned off the live stream, finished the rest of the ice cream in a few bites, and bought a ticket to Sanya on the spot. In one's life, one must see the sea. I remember vividly, on the night before my death, seeing the family photo they posted on Weibo. It was a very beautiful beach. They were healthy, happy. Everyone was complete. My incompleteness seemed to bring them misfortune. We naturally repelled each other. Blood ties were not a bond between us but an unbreakable shackle, an inescapable restraint. The ice cream was excessively cold. My stomach ached faintly. I took out a bottle of painkillers from my bag, swallowed one, and put the rest back for later. I arrived in Sanya at night. The sound of waves is truly a magical existence, crashing and roaring for thousands of years. Yet it has a soul-cleansing effect. I started a live stream again, this time, to prevent revealing my location. I covered the camera with a band-aid. Lying on the beach, I chatted with viewers. What exactly is your illness? It's not an untreatable disease, just an early-stage minor illness. I'm a bit afraid of pain, so I need to do some mental preparation. Not everyone is born brave. It's normal for me to fear pain. I'm just an ordinary person. Brother? I don't have a brother. He's talking nonsense. Maybe he's a stalker fan. I smiled, pinning a black mark on Simon. Unexpectedly, even someone as niche as me has stalker fans. You all must protect me. Simon appeared again, because of his spending during the day. Now when he entered my live stream room, a purple lantern entrance effect appeared. It was hard not to notice. Why didn't you wait for me? I looked for you there for a long time. Why won't you go to the hospital? Simon asked question after question. I didn't want to answer, deliberately pretending not to see, and rushed to the seaside to wade in the water for the viewers to hear. The seawater is so cool, but stepping in it feels very comfortable. The sand was fine and soft, even without stepping hard. You could sink in. The cool, slightly salty sea breeze blew on my face, making me fearful yet inexplicably addicted. I was wearing a pure white dress, lifting the hem with both hands, playing like a child, kicking water at the seaside. The seawater splashed as I kicked it. There was no one around, but I had fun alone. The roadside lights were bright and splendid. The depths of the sea were dark and boundless. I danced at the boundary of light and shadow, the pure white dress blown up by the wind, blossoming into a snow-white flower. Strands of hair blocked my vision. I couldn't see myself or others. Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand. A very tall man, in such a relaxed seaside setting, was wearing a shirt and trousers, appearing very out of place. He held a flower crown in his hand, snow white with a hint of pale green. He didn't say a word, just placed the flower crown on my head, then retreated to the shore to watch me. What a strange man. I had played enough and walked to the side. Still unsatisfied, the man who had watched me dance had already left. I picked up my phone, ready to return to the hotel, but saw that Simon was arguing with my fans. I really am Sophia's brother. I'm her biological brother, blood related. Same mother. Biological brother. One after another. Purple comments flashed across the screen. Although his messages were conspicuous each time, my fans had already been prepped by me. No matter how much Simon said, they didn't believe he was my brother. Simon was so angry he cursed. I curled my lips, clicked on Simon's avatar, and blocked him. Even if you're a wealthy patron, you can't curse my fans in my space. The fans celebrated wildly. Many even sent me gifts. Many sweethearts were worried about what to do if I offended a big patron. What can we do? I'm just a small streamer traveling. Happiness is most important. He's so rich. He shouldn't care about the life and death of a small streamer like me. Otherwise, he'd be too idle. Everyone should do what they ought to do, whether happy or not. Life has many flavors. Experience them slowly. Do I sound like your grandma when I talk like this? Then your grandma is very cultured, a very open-minded old lady. Let's meet her another day. The sound of waves crashing. I returned to the hotel with the sea breeze. The moment I turned off the live stream, Simon's call came in. Chapter 5. I casually turned on the speakerphone, placed the phone on the table, and lay down on the sofa, rubbing my stomach. The effect of the medicine had worn off. Strands of pain returned. Not so painful as to be unbearable, but uncomfortable nonetheless. When I'm uncomfortable, my temper isn't good. In my previous life, my edges were smoothed. In this life, I just want to be a hedgehog. No one should think of taking advantage of me. Sophia, where are you now? I'll come find you. Simon's voice on the phone was urgent, sounding very anxious. I changed positions lying down. Couldn't help but retort. If you're sick, get treated. If not, then get lost. I'm very busy. Simon was choked by my words again. He seemed to sense my low mood, and his tone softened a lot. Are you feeling unwell? If you don't want me to go to the hospital with you, I'll give you money. Can you go to the hospital yourself? Why is Simon so persistent in wanting me to go to the hospital? In this life, even I had just received the cancer diagnosis not long ago. Why is he so eager for me to go to the hospital? There's something off about this abnormality, especially from Simon, who has always been indifferent to me. He always thought my ordinary self embarrassed him, embarrassed the Li family, even wishing to stay 800 meters away from me when walking. Such a person who avoided me like the plague, how could he suddenly be so concerned about me? Did he also get reborn? Impossible. Even if he were reborn, he wouldn't have such a big change in attitude toward me. Rather than him being reborn, I more likely think he's been possessed. The real him couldn't possibly be so concerned about me. Sophia, stop messing around. Seriously, can you go to the hospital and get checked? If there's any problem, brother will take you for treatment. Treatment? I don't want treatment. Chemotherapy is really too painful. Every 2 days, there's a needle so long and thick that needs to be inserted into one's spine. Injecting medicine into the body. After the injection, bending over hurts. Lying down hurts. Every moment reminds you that as long as you can't endure it, aren't strong enough, death will come to take you. The physical and psychological pressure constantly oppresses the little space for survival. Just recalling it makes my scalp tingle. Why do you think I'm ill? Simon laughed it off, saying, people should have regular checkups. If there's illness, we'll treat it. If not, then, did you peek at my diagnosis report? I wasn't interested in hearing Simon's lies. My stomach hurt more and more. After blowing in the sea breeze all night without eating a grain of rice, my stomach was protesting. Simon was silent for a moment. Before I hung up, he said, Sophia, give brother a chance to make it up to you, okay? Starting over. You can't let me watch you again. Let's go treat the illness. Brother won't spend money recklessly anymore. All my money, I'll save for you. We'll go treat the illness. He stopped talking. I hung up the phone. So he was reborn too. But how could this jerk, just because of a rebirth, want to save me? In a rebirth, shouldn't he be eager to help Bianca cover up the truth that she's not the Li family's daughter? How could Simon sincerely want to save me? He must be playing some trick I don't know. Living is too tiring and too painful. I really don't want to live in such a world anymore. Chapter 6. I ordered a seafood platter. changed into warmer clothes, and started a mukbang livestream for my fans. Fortunately, Simon didn't show up again trying to make his presence known. Chatting with my fans and talking about anything and everything wasn't bad. At least it made me happy. The colorful scrolling comments appeared once more. Deep Sea said, "Crabs are cold in nature. Eat less." Deep Sea was different from Simon. He was a true VIP, although he hadn't given me many gifts. Just his colorful comments made him seem especially high class. When a big shot speaks, I definitely listen. I broke off a few crab legs to snack on and set the rest aside, leaving only a bowl of seafood soup to sip occasionally and warm my stomach. As I continued streaming, the phone rang again, but this time, it wasn't that jerk Simon calling, it was my biological mother. MS. Lou. MS. Lou's voice was as gentle as ever. She began with a long lecture about Bianca's achievements and then encouraged me, saying she hoped I could follow Bianca's example. Follow what? Her venomous heart, killing without a knife? Or her sweet words hiding sharp daggers, cutting off my path with just a few sentences in my past life? I have something to do. I'll hang up now. Before the call ended, I heard a slight fluctuation in MS. Lou's tone, it seemed she was a bit angry. Whatever. The familial relationships in this family were already a mess. I hadn't even returned to the live stream when the phone rang again. My hand trembled as I answered the call. It was still a mess. Lou. This time, her tone was much softer. The drastic change in attitude made me wonder if she'd been possessed. So warm and gentle. It felt like I could smell the sunshine on her through the phone. Sophia, how's your health? Are you eating well lately? How about going for a health checkup with Mom? My stomach was uncomfortable, and I didn't want to waste energy dealing with this fake mother-daughter relationship. I hung up the phone and tossed it onto the sofa. The phone screen lit up quickly, persistently staying lit for a long time. I refused to answer. Even if the sky fell, I wouldn't pick up. I chatted idly with Deep Sea, fiddling with the flower crown the stranger had given me tonight. This rose variety was quite special. The petals were snow white, and the closer to the center, the more they spread into a perfect pale green, very similar to the eustomas I was holding this afternoon. Deep Sea sent a comment, "Madam Hardy suits you well." I looked at the flower crown with great interest and, along with my fans in the comments section, started guessing Deep Sea's profession. He could identify the flower species at a glance. Could he be a florist? But considering his high-end colorful comments, my esteemed VIP couldn't possibly be just a florist. I believed that my dear patron must own hundreds of acres of flower fields. Deep Sea didn't send any more comments. We didn't figure out what he actually did, and the topic quickly veered off in another direction. In the end, I promised my fans that I'd take them to the beach tomorrow to see handsome guys, and they finally let me off. I took a bath and then went to the hotel spa for an essential oil treatment. Tomorrow, I'll surely outshine everyone and step out looking fabulous. In the morning, when the beach was most crowded, I started the live stream. Chapter 7. The azure sea carried white waves, and when the sun was shining brightly, parts of the sea glistened with a greenish hue. Unlike yesterday's chilly night breeze, today the sun was warm. The fine sand swallowed my feet, and holding a hefty investment of a 9 yuan mini rake, I started a live beachcombing session. I knelt on the ground, digging holes with the little rake. The man who had given me flowers yesterday appeared again. He pointed to a small hole and told me there were razor clams inside, facing his handsome face. I decided to trust him once. He helped me hold the phone while I knelt on the ground, digging into the sand without caring about my image. We didn't find any razor clams, and one rake broke. Different colored firework effects lit up on the screen again. The man's deep voice helped me thank the patron who sent the gifts, which provoked the other's anger. Looking at the patron, oh, it's Simon. His main account had been blocked by me and was still on the blacklist. Not sure whose ID he borrowed to register a new account. After sending a few fireworks, he started pretending to be a moderator, trying to control my live stream room. Truly insane. I took back the phone, thanked the man, and walked a bit farther away. With a blank expression, I said to Simon in the live stream, "Simon, your sister is abroad. If you have unspent family affection, you can just fly over and have a family reunion. Why bother with me? Don't say our relationship is so deep. We've barely met a few times. It's unnecessary. Really unnecessary. We're all dispensable to each other. Don't tell me you can't live without me. I've never seen you all ever needing me in this life. I felt that Simon deserved a scolding. I hoped I could scold him awake so he wouldn't dare to bother me again. Simon didn't speak anymore. He just silently sent me fireworks. One after another. All green. Is he crazy or what? Just as I was about to curse, my dear patron stepped in. He directly sent a series of dream castles. The light purple castles overshadowed the firework effects. After that annoying patch of green disappeared, my mood improved a lot. I blatantly showed my favoritism right in front of Simon. I used a sweet voice to say to Deep Sea, "Thank you, brother Deep Sea, for the dream castle. You're awesome. Go, brother." To be honest, acting cute seems to be a skill. I probably don't have that talent. But Deep Sea seemed to like it. With a flick of his hand, another bunch of dream castles came pouring in. Simon was furious. So angry that he started sending dream castles too. Sending 99 dream castles would trigger a special Easter egg on the Livestream platform. From the dreamy purple castle, a girl in a princess dress would walk out. A prince on a white horse would descend from the sky and hold her in his arms. The two would walk hand in hand into the castle. Great! This scene was very much like the married life of a female streamer and her top patron. Deep Sea paused his gifting. Simon didn't stop. He also sent 99 dream castles, triggering the special effect. I felt nauseous. Simon, get lost! Putting aside the unpredictable factor that is Simon, the trip to Sanya was still fantastic. The sun, the beach, coconut groves, and countless handsome guys and beautiful girls on the beach. I'm just a simple girl. I love seeing handsome guys and beauties being affectionate. On the 5th day of happily playing in Sanya, I met two unexpected people. Chapter 8. My biological parents. They arrived travel-worn, dressed in expensive suits and gowns, with fatigue they couldn't conceal etched on their faces. Is the Li family going bankrupt? Shouldn't they be abroad accompanying Bianca on her global tour? Before I could ask, Mrs. Liu rushed over and hugged me the moment she saw me. Is she sick? Has she been possessed? I felt a wetness on my neck as Mrs. Liu's tears dripped down, warm at first, but quickly turning cold. Mrs. Liu held me tightly, giving me the illusion that I was somehow important. But upon seeing Mr. Li standing opposite, that illusion vanished. What's going on? What kind of trick is the Li family playing now? No, Sophia. Pull yourself together. Don't be fooled by the enemy's sugar-coated bullets. Haven't you learned from how miserable you were in your past life? Haven't you had enough of dying alone in a hospital? You can't let familial sentiments cloud your judgment. I pried Mrs. Liu's hands off me, stepped back a few paces to ensure a safe social distance between us, and then asked them, "What's the matter? If there's nothing, I'll be leaving. The handsome guy who gave me the flower crown last time is still waiting for me on the beach." In response, Mrs. Liu looked at me with tear-filled eyes. What's with this behavior? Hugging and crying without saying anything upon seeing someone. Is the Li family really going bankrupt? Surely they haven't run out of money and are trying to get back the hundreds of thousands on my card? That can't be it, right? Any violin in Bianca's music room is worth more than that. Sophia, listen to Mom. Come to the hospital with me, okay? You can't delay your illness any longer. What illness of mine? Did that brat Simon spread news of my illness everywhere? In my past life, even when they knew I had cancer, they weren't this upset. Back then, they even looked disappointed and told me to stop causing trouble. Mrs. Liu cried gracefully, tears falling silently. Watching her weep so beautifully, I suddenly felt ashamed. Why didn't I inherit that trait? If I had, maybe I wouldn't have failed to make money from live streaming in my past life. If I had learned, I'd have hugged a camera and live streamed myself crying every day. Suddenly, my biological father interrupted my thoughts. He looked at me cautiously, his tone tentative. Sophia, Dad has been on business trips a lot lately and hasn't been feeling well. Will you accompany me to the hospital? We can all get a health checkup together. Hospital? Why is it always the hospital? Is the Li family at odds with hospitals? I sneered, folding my arms as I looked at the couple supporting each other before me. They look decent. with a stable marriage and harmonious relationship. Add 2 daughters and a son, and they clearly are a happy family of 5. No matter how you look at it, this wonderful family checkup has little to do with me. Simon was like this, and so are they. A strange thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could it be as I suspect? They've all been reborn? Reborn as a group? A family rebirth? Is rebirth calculated per family unit these days? Why is the Li family sticking to me like glue, even after dying once? Looking at this middle-aged couple before me, I felt something in my heart seem to break open. I thought I feared nothing, not even death, and would be invincible in this life. I didn't expect to still care. I should find time to change my name, cut ties completely, no matter what. I don't want even my tombstone after death to bear any traces of the Li family. I'll do it tomorrow. Mario seemed to want to say something but hesitated. Middle-aged. His face was increasingly weathered. The authoritative patriarch in my memory was gradually replaced by the somewhat cautious man before me. In my past life, Mario was a strict father, strict only to me, while being a loving father to Li Mingzhu, Bianca, and Simon. He fulfilled their every request. When Bianca wanted an antique violin for her collection, he bought it without a word. When Simon casually mentioned wanting the latest supercar during dinner, he just nodded. And the next day the car keys were in Simon's hands. As for the eldest sister, Li Mingzhu, he granted her every wish, even giving her company shares. I only wanted 200,000 yuan for treatment. I thought it was a trivial request, but he told me to consider whether I really needed the money. How could I not need it? How can someone be so hypocritical? At that time, as I met his gaze, I couldn't suppress the sadness in my heart. I stared blankly at him, losing even the courage to speak. Clearly, we were all asking in the same way, but only I couldn't get anything. Only I was out of place in that family. Looking at this cold-faced man before me, I wanted to lash out at him, but when the words reached my lips, I felt utterly powerless. Why do they treat me this way? Am I that unimportant? Is it just because they didn't watch me grow up, so such a huge gap exists? But I was also the child you eagerly brought into this world. Chapter 9. It was later that I understood that blood relations don't mean anything. Bianca has no blood relation with them, yet they're as close as family, while I please neither family, and neither likes me. The sadness from my memories seemed to chase after me. I quickly pulled myself out of my thoughts. He came to find me. The man who had previously given me a flower crown and helped me hold my phone during live streams came to see me. I never knew his name. He told me to call him Hey, and said that when I called out, he'd know it was me. He's a very special man, at first glance. Not suitable as a long-term boyfriend. Of course, I don't have the fate to start a long-term relationship with him. My life's progress bar is low on energy, and it can't be recharged. He waited for me at the hotel entrance. I couldn't wait to escape from this oppressive place. I casually brushed off the Li couple and turned to leave with the man. You're unhappy? He rarely spoke, so rarely that I sometimes wondered if he was mute. Not wanting to continue the topic, I said perfunctorily, not really. Shall we have some barbecue for lunch? He thought for a moment and took me to a seafood porridge shop. The best food near Sanya isn't necessarily in big restaurants. Sometimes, hidden delicacies are found in these small shops everywhere. Although I'd only known this man for a short time, he seemed to know my stomach wasn't well and was particularly attentive to my diet. The porridge shop we went to was small but very clean. The owners were an elderly couple who sat at the door chatting leisurely with friends, exuding a sense of peace. Although I couldn't understand their local dialect, I could feel their tranquility and joy. The seafood porridge was steaming hot. The white rice grains were cooked until they burst open, turning into little rice flowers, dotted with finely chopped seafood and large shrimp, mixed with a bit of chopped scallion. The warmth from the porridge surpassed so-called familial affection. Since being diagnosed with stomach cancer, I hadn't eaten so happily. Indeed, only good food should not be missed in this world. After finishing the porridge, I directly bought a train ticket back to Beijing. That Li character in my name has been bothering me. I'm changing it today. Seeing me buy a ticket, the man sitting opposite me seemed a bit uneasy. His tall figure blocked others' view but not mine. When our eyes met, his face suddenly turned bright red. Anyone unaware might think I'd done something to this 6-foot-tall man. I really hadn't. I'm not a female hooligan, but a proper 21st century law-abiding citizen. You're leaving? His entire face flushed pink, his big eyes blinking unconsciously like a little puppy. This man is really something. Having been single for 2 lifetimes, I'm finding it hard to resist. Sophia, calm down. You're a dying person. You can't harm this young man. I nodded. I need to return to my hometown. His expression instantly turned dejected. Oh my. So face changing in cartoons does exist. I quickly added. I have something to handle that can only be done at my hometown's police station. He frowned, seeming a bit reluctant. The expressions on his face kept switching between hesitation and unwillingness. I can go with you? He suddenly stood up, even spinning in place, looking not too bright. I can help you carry your luggage. When he spoke, his eyes sparkled. What should I do? He's looking more and more like a puppy. Why do you talk so little? I was curious. If I say he's innocent, his previous answers were quite like a playboy. If I say he's a playboy, he's now pure like a little puppy. His previously flushed face quickly cooled, even turning pale. I didn't know which of my words touched a sore spot, but I felt his eyes suddenly become so sad. The emotions in his eyes were extremely suppressed. His tall figure stood motionless, his gaze growing emptier, as if he had suddenly fallen into a world of his own. No way. Did I provoke some mentally unstable guy? I quickly reached out to tug his sleeve, trying to snap him out of it. He suddenly grabbed my hand tightly, looking at me with a mix of fear and relief. Chapter 10. He held my hand so tightly that it hurt a bit. I didn't understand his sudden change, but when I met his gaze, he looked at me as if I were a lifeline. In his eyes, I seemed like someone who could pull him out of the abyss. What happened to him? I didn't dare to ask, fearing I might touch a sensitive nerve. He looked at me, and I looked back at him. I tried to appear gentler, emitting the softest signals I could, and held his hand that was gripping my wrist tightly. Instinctively, I felt that this might give him strength. The porridge shop was small but crowded. People around us were watching. I didn't dare to let go of his hand, afraid that his emotions might spiral out of control again, plunging him into that oblivious state. Gradually, his emotions seemed to stabilize, but he still appeared very desolate. He held my hand as we walked out of the porridge shop, never letting go along the way. He kept holding on tightly. He didn't notice, and I didn't remind him. Slowly, I accompanied him to the place where we first met. I found a sheltered spot, leaned against a rock, and listened as he told me his story. He said he has survivor's guilt syndrome. On his 18th birthday, his family had planned to celebrate together at a restaurant. That day, they encountered a severe chain car accident. 7 cars collided in a pile-up. Their car was crushed and deformed. He survived by hiding in his brother's arms, keeping his life, but his brother died on top of him. His father was pierced through the lungs by steel pipes that fell from the truck ahead and suffocated to death. His mother suffered severe head trauma and died on the spot. If it weren't for me insisting on celebrating my birthday, they wouldn't have encountered the chain car accident. Survivor's guilt syndrome, as the name suggests, is the guilt felt by those who survive a disaster over the deaths of others. Survivors feel that if they could have made some change, the disaster wouldn't have happened, or the people who died wouldn't have lost their lives. Now, he's the only one left in his family. Because of that car accident, he developed psychological issues. He felt disgusted with himself, believing that if he hadn't willfully insisted on having his coming-of-age ceremony at that restaurant, his parents and brother wouldn't have had the accident. His sorrow was almost palpable. He squatted down in pain, hugging himself tightly, his tall body nearly curled into a ball. I didn't know how to comfort him. I seemed to see his soul struggling in agony, but I was powerless. This sense of helplessness was the same as when I was alone in the hospital trying to save myself. But how can someone who has given up on themselves save others? I stayed with him for a long time. He started by squatting on the ground, then eventually sat limply, leaning against the big rock that sheltered me from the wind, staring blankly at the sea. Perhaps his purpose in coming to Sanya was the same as mine, to let the ocean heal the wounds of the soul. But it's too late. Some wounds have already festered and are beyond cure. He and I are both souls struggling in despair. I am Deep Sea. Chapter 11. He suddenly dropped a bombshell without warning, startling me so much that I couldn't help but dig a small hole in the sand with my finger. Deep Sea? The man in front of me indeed looked very much like a big shot. Like a boss from a manga, not quite matching the image of Deep Sea I had in my mind, but still quite impressive. Thinking about it, I realized I'd never actually seen what Deep Sea looked like. I had previously thought he was a rich middle-aged man, but I didn't expect such a stark contrast in reality. Does this mean I've unknowingly befriended my top patron? I stumbled upon your live stream by chance and felt that you were very sunny and gentle, even though you were doing simple things. Watching you made me feel comfortable and relaxed. Gradually, only when I watched your live stream could I sleep a bit better. I've been in Sanya during this time, so even though you didn't turn on the camera that day, from what people around were saying, I guessed you had come to Sanya. I couldn't help myself and came out to see you on my own. I didn't talk to you because I was afraid of disturbing you. I gave you the flower crown because you seemed a bit sad at that time. As he spoke, he still seemed a bit downcast, probably not yet out of his memories. I couldn't share my pain with him. I could only say, all right, come with me to Beijing, if you don't mind the trouble. With Deep Sea by my side, live streaming became much more convenient. With him around, I didn't need to hold up the phone with one hand while running up and down. He's really tall. Places I used to have to climb up and down to film, he could just stand straight and raise his hand. Comparisons can be infuriating. I deliberately made him drink doji, a fermented mung bean drink, watching his face full of disgust but having to drink it. And after finishing, he looked like a dejected little puppy. I took him to the places where I grew up, to see my elementary school, middle school, and university. My life wasn't long. It was all in the city. If we hurried, we could see it all in a day. Why hadn't I realized before that my living space was so narrow? Biting into a candied hawthorn skewer, I took Deep Sea to change my name. I changed my surname to White. For this, I even made up a non-existent lover, saying he had died and I wanted to use his surname to live on for him. From now on, my name is Luna. I don't want to follow the Li family's traditions. I am who I am, pure and untainted. I don't want to be bound by any constraints. I want to die in the freest way possible. My future may be short, but it must be bright and splendid. After changing my name, there's a review period, so I can't leave this place temporarily. It's quite troublesome. Just as I was about to return to the hotel to rest for a day, Deep Sea drove up next to me in a newly purchased car. He lowered the car window, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, tilted his head at me, a gesture that was ridiculously handsome. Oh my god, how does he look so much like Doraemon? We got in the car that very night and went to the South China Sea. Deep Sea had watched my live streams and knew I liked Hanfu, traditional Chinese clothing. He even prepared 3 sets of Hanfu in advance for me to choose from. Tang style, Song style, Ming style, each one hit my excitement points. If I didn't do a full photo shoot in these brand new Hanfu, I'd be letting them down. I absolutely loved them. Really loved them. But as a thorny rose of the 21st century, I still had to be a bit reserved. I told him, big shot, this isn't appropriate. He said, consider these Hanfu as the gifts I sent in your live stream. That's true, a dream castle costs 10,000 yuan. How can a dream castle compare to the allure of Hanfu? Let's go! I asked my livestream fans to type their thanks to the boss on the public screen. Simon said nothing, silently sending fireworks. 1, 2, 3, the fireworks filled the screen, covering all the comments about Deep Sea. He probably spent hundreds of thousands. The portion I receive would be about 100,000 yuan. He stopped and sent his first comment in days. Sophia, after we return from the South China Sea, can we go to the hospital? You really can't delay your illness any longer. Chapter 12. Seeing that Simon, that scoundrel, was about to ruin things, I swiftly kicked him out of the livestream. But the fans in Deep Sea had already seen Simon's colorful comments. What's going on with your illness? Deep Sea asked the question everyone wanted to ask. I could brush off others, but facing Deep Sea, I couldn't bring myself to lie. I remained silent. Simon, that scoundrel, opened a new account, directly changing his ID to Simon No 2, and began frantically spamming comments. Please, everyone, help persuade my sister. She has been diagnosed with stomach cancer but refuses to go to the hospital. Our family is very anxious and wants to take her for treatment. Although you may not believe that I'm her brother, the only thing I can say is that Sophia and I are blood-related siblings. I've done some things before that upset her. I don't blame her for not acknowledging me, but my only wish now is for her to receive treatment as soon as possible. Simon's words were like a sharp knife, tearing apart the peaceful facade I had carefully crafted. Why did he have to make everyone pity me? Why turn my well-managed live stream into something I least wanted to see? Why destroy the hard-earned peace I had? This small live stream was one of the few pure places I had. Why couldn't they even leave me this last clean space? The fans in the live stream were very worried, all asking if this was true. The comments were flying by so fast that I couldn't even keep up. What did they want me to say? Some things don't cease to exist just because you say they don't. Deep Sea helped me close the live stream. I stood there motionless. If there's anything I regret most since being reborn, it's that I didn't personally get rid of that idiot Simon. Physically and mentally exhausted, I didn't even have the strength to lift a hand. Deep Sea stood beside me and gently hugged me. He was very tall, his chest broad and warm. In this early autumn weather, it felt just right. But I was not okay. As everyone knows, people who are feeling wronged can't hold back when comforted. Tears kept pouring out uncontrollably. My tears soaked Deep Sea's shirt. I didn't want to cry. They came out on their own. An increasing sense of helplessness pressed down on me like a mountain. I didn't know what to do. I originally just wanted to start a live stream to record the most carefree moments before my death. Why is it so hard? Living is so exhausting. Deep Sea. Living is so exhausting. The Deep Sea who seemed so fragile to me before was now the pillar supporting my emotions. I felt a bit sorry for him, but I couldn't help it. Really couldn't. Tears slid down my nose, smearing everywhere as I wiped them. It turns out that when people are extremely upset, tears are uncontrollable. Such small eyes can actually produce so many tears. I don't want treatment. I don't want chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is too painful. Really too painful. Deep Sea, it can hurt you to death. I don't want to receive treatment. Can't I just die? Why won't they even let me die peacefully? Why must they make me undergo treatment? Clearly, they were the ones who didn't want me in the first place. They were the ones who abandoned me in my past life. I died alone in the hospital. Never. No one has ever cared about me. They're all liars. They've never loved me. I cried incoherently in Deep Sea's arms, saying whatever came to mind, spilling out all the grievances I could think of. Deep Sea truly is as gentle as the ocean. He held me, patting my back gently, like comforting a child. When was the last time someone comforted me like this? I can't remember. After crying, I didn't know how long it had been, but I felt quite embarrassed once I was done. I tugged at Deep Sea's sleeve and said I wanted to eat seafood porridge, unable to hide my identity as a patient any longer. I came clean. Deep Sea frowned, opened his phone to search, then after a moment, put it down. Let's go to the hospital. Chapter 13. I stopped in my tracks. Deep Sea held my hand, intending to take me to the nearest hospital. I didn't move, and he wouldn't go, just to ask if there are any dietary restrictions. Deep Sea didn't understand why I was unwilling to go to the hospital, but he still explained his reason for wanting to take me there. What you find online may not be accurate. It's better to consult the hospital. Oh, I lowered my head and followed Deep Sea. Agreed. We're only checking dietary restrictions. Deep Sea hummed in agreement and draped a coat over me. On the way, we briefly discussed why I didn't want to go to the hospital. I couldn't tell Deep Sea that I was reborn. After thinking about it, I blamed it on my fear of pain. Isn't surviving a good thing? Though it will be painful. There could be so much in your future. Deep Sea always spoke succinctly, getting straight to the point. I shook my head, unwilling to experience the pain of chemotherapy from my past life again. From a rational perspective, I should undergo treatment, but emotionally, I didn't want to live or see the Li family again. I'm not that brave. What I'm doing is running away, avoiding familial ties and potential harm, not holding expectations. Always preparing for the worst, that's what I, a pessimist, often think about. I can get treatment. And then what? After treatment, continue entangling with the Li family? It seems I can't escape the shadow of the Li family in this life. Better to start over. Reset everything to zero. Chapter 14. After visiting the hospital to check on dietary restrictions, Deep Sea began to stick to me closely, preventing me from secretly snacking on treats behind his back. Upon hearing in a fan group that a fan got so thirsty on the road that he stole a cucumber from a Huangshan farmer and was chased by dogs halfway up the mountain, I immediately dragged Deep Sea, saying I wanted to climb Huangshan. At first glance at the Huangshan trail, I felt sick. I saw that family who make my eyes hurt. The Li couple, along with their 3 children, all neatly together, probably more gathered than at my own funeral in my past life. What bad luck, like misfortune opening the door to even more misfortune. Never have I been so unlucky in this life. Deep Sea squeezed my hand, silently comforting me. I didn't explain to him why I was so repulsed by my biological family, but he seemed to have a vivid imagination. I still remember that night when he held me gently and said, "Our little Moon is not an unwanted child. We all love you." Such delicate, beautiful moments are more precious than pearls. They are fleeting joys in my tragic life that cannot be erased. That sentence seemed to give me strength. Holding hands with Deep Sea, we walked up the mountain path without looking around. After climbing for about an hour, a sharp pain started in my stomach. I skillfully took out painkillers from my backpack, but Deep Sea stopped me. He pulled out a thermos from his own backpack. It was vegetable porridge he had learned to make himself. Have some porridge first to settle your stomach. Looking at the dark circles under his eyes, I felt a deep sense of guilt. Had I known earlier, I wouldn't have gotten involved with him. He already suffers from survivor's guilt. If I leave in front of him again, will he have another breakdown? The porridge was warm, and I managed not to throw up despite the Li family being nearby. But it tasted like nothing. Just moments ago, I thought the small joys in my memories were the sweets I'd treasure all my life. Now I realize, my sweets are probably his poison. Yet he takes it gladly. How should I respond to him? The more I reply, the deeper I sink. Rejecting him, I can't do it. Deep Sea is the only light in both of my lives. He is my moon. After finishing the porridge, Deep Sea continued climbing the mountain with me. He seemed to know my wishes and did everything he could to help me accomplish all the things I wanted to do. One by one, the destinations on my bucket list were checked off. Regrets didn't lessen. Instead, they grew. Deep Sea took me to a swing, secured me with a safety belt, and I swung at the peak of the highest mountain. The Li family stood nearby, watching me as if afraid I'd disappear in the blink of an eye. Sitting on the swing, the mountain wind brushed past my ears. Cool but not chilling. Looking at Deep Sea pushing me, I suddenly felt that perhaps I couldn't leave without any attachments. Chapter 15. If only you had appeared earlier, if we had met in my past life, the outcome would surely have been different. I dazed off on the swing for a long time, and Deep Sea kept pushing me. Lost in thought, one of my hands slipped off the swing. A scream came from the Li family's direction. It was Mrs. Liu. I looked up at her and realized she was already in tears without me noticing. Crying? For what? Isn't Bianca happily by her side? How disgusting. They were so cold to me in my past life, and now they act like they care so much. My change is because I've been reborn. But what's the reason for their change? Did they get reborn too? So is this encounter meant to let me make up for regrets? Or is it to let them get what they want and eliminate the little guilt they have? Don't want to be tormented by guilt anymore? So this time, everyone starts to care about me, always saying they want to take me to the hospital. At this moment, I suddenly seemed to find a way to get back at them. I let go of my hands, allowing the swing to soar higher. I laughed recklessly, my gaze locking onto every member of the Li family, afraid to miss any expression of their pain. The Li couple's eyes turned red. Mrs. Liu could no longer maintain her noble and gentle demeanor, stumbling as she ran toward Deep Sea. Get away! Don't touch him! I was like a cat whose territory had been invaded, doing everything I could to bare my claws and fangs. She stopped at my shout, standing there helplessly crying out. She was begging me to come down. Deep Sea seemed to understand my thoughts. I swung higher and became increasingly unsteady. Simon was crying too. He pounded the mountain wall with red eyes. Blood oozed from his wounds. His hands trembled. But he didn't dare to take his eyes off me. So what exactly is the reason that they care about me so much? I don't understand, but I enjoy seeing them in pain. I spread my arms wide, fully embracing the mountain winds and clouds, the beauty of the world. The Li family watched with eyes about to crack. The hatred in Bianca's eyes was almost tangible. If looks could kill, I would have died 1,000 times over. You hate me? I roughly knew why she disliked me, but I didn't know her loathing could drive her to push me toward death. Bianca stood in a corner, her presence very low, clearly someone who craves others' attention so much. Yet now she intentionally diminishes her presence? I won't let things go as you wish. Pointing to where she stood, I shouted to the Li family. You brought her here. Do you think I'm not dying fast enough? Bianca suddenly looked up, her gaze at me vicious and poisonous. The Li family quickly followed my finger to look at her. She immediately lowered her head, pretending to be innocent, and said meekly, "Sister, I know I was wrong. Will you forgive me?" That expression is truly nauseating. I got off the swing, my legs a bit weak, and leaned against a tree to catch my breath. Bianca walked over slowly, bearing the hopeful gazes of the Li family, and said to me, "Sister, I was immature before. Will you forgive me?" I slapped her hand away. She looked aggrieved, tears welling up as she glanced pitifully at the Li parents. No one paid attention to her. Everyone was looking at me. Chapter 16. This was one of the rare times I displayed aggression. Deep Sea followed closely behind me, seemingly afraid that Bianca might suddenly attack. Just as Bianca was about to open her mouth to cry, I clutched my stomach and slowly squatted down. It hurt. I had laughed too loudly just now. The cold wind rushed into my mouth, swinging on the swing for too long. I had caught a bit of a cold. Deep Sea picked me up and ran down the mountain. Simon followed behind him, and behind Simon were the Li couple. As for Bianca, she seemed to have been left at the top of the mountain. By the time we reached the hospital, I was still in a daze. My consciousness was still lingering on that teardrop from Deep Sea that had fallen on my clothes while we were on the cable car. Regrets are like water droplets falling into a lake, creating ripples. I never expected that one day, when facing death, I would have thoughts of retreating. If I die, he will truly collapse. I allowed him to take me for examinations. While lying on the hospital bed, the Li family looked at Deep Sea with eyes that seemed to glow, especially Simon. In the last live stream, he was silently competing with Deep Sea, but now he was tagging along, calling him Brother Deep Sea at every turn. It's quite embarrassing to be related to him by blood. In the afternoon, when I had just woken up from a nap and Deep Sea wasn't by my side, Simon was there holding a plush teddy bear, keeping watch over me. I knew him, and he knew me. I didn't want to play guessing games with them anymore. I closed my eyes, not even wanting to look at him. Why must you bring me here for treatment? In my past life, when I begged you, what were you doing? Do I need to remind you? Sophia, we only found out about your illness later, but by then it was too late, you were already gone. Simon defended himself, but he seemed to realize that such words would upset me, so he quickly softened, speaking gently, almost as if coaxing a child. Sophia, can you call me brother one more time? I know I was a jerk in my past life and did many bad things to you, but I'm really scared now. I'm always afraid that if you fall asleep, you won't wake up again. I don't want to lose you again. Simon placed the plush teddy bear he was holding beside my pillow. This teddy bear is the one I've held since I was little. I'm giving it to you now. If you don't like me and don't want to see me, that's okay. Let it accompany you instead, okay? I raised my hand and threw the teddy bear away. Simon was silent for a moment but still forced a smile and said to me, "Don't like the teddy bear? What do you like? I'll find it for you, okay? What do I like? I'd like you all to stay as far away from me as possible. Don't call me Sophia. I've changed my name." Simon was stunned, incredibly surprised, seemingly not expecting that I had even changed my name. "What's your new name?" "My name is Luna. I don't want any connection with you. It's a pity I can't change my DNA. Otherwise, I'd like to change that too." Every one of you in your family disgusts me. So what if we're related by blood? Do you care? If you cared even a little, I wouldn't have died in my past life. On the day I died, you were happily gathering on the beach, while I was lying in the hospital in excruciating pain. Do you know how painful chemotherapy is? Have you seen how long the needles are? Do you know what it feels like when it hurts so much that you can't sleep? Tossing and turning, even breathing hurts? When it was so painful, I had to calculate every penny to see if I had enough money for the next treatment. All the doctors told me to be happy and face the treatment positively. You tell me, how could I be positive? How could I be positive? I just wanted to survive. When you were partying on the beach was when I died. Do you know how it feels to see every person undergoing chemotherapy accompanied by their family? Even in the poorest families, they'd rather sleep on makeshift beds outside the hospital room or on hospital chairs just to accompany their loved ones. How did you treat me? Do you remember? Don't say it's all Bianca's fault. Bianca is hateful. But didn't you distress me too much? In your subconscious, you think I'm ignorant and can't tell right from wrong. You think that when I see the Li family's money, I will have evil intentions. I will definitely go bad. So as long as Bianca says a word, plants a seed, you will keep doubting me. You all are disgusting. The hospital room door opened. My parents and sisters stood outside. They were in tears, wanting to cry out loud but not daring to make a sound. Only Deep Sea didn't care about the almost suffocating atmosphere in the room. He quickly walked to my side and held me in his arms. He didn't cry, just held me tightly, almost merging me into his body. He was so helpless. He was afraid. I could feel Deep Sea's body trembling slightly. Even his breaths on my neck were erratic. Deep Sea, you are indeed my moon. In the dead of night, I chatted with Deep Sea. He was sleeping on the bench outside the door. When I called him, his face was still streaked with tears. Does it hurt again? I don't hurt. I'm heartbroken for you. Silly. After I'm gone, you have to take good care of yourself. My death is not because of you. You can think of it as me committing suicide. Deep Sea didn't speak. His tall body squatted by my bed, looking like an abandoned puppy. But if you leave, I won't have the moon anymore. He spoke without context, but I understood what he meant. You don't know, you are my moon too. I know. I'll remember to eat well and rest. You wanted to go to Switzerland and France before. If you can't go, I'll take you there. You want to travel the world. I'll help you. The moon hangs high in the sky, and now, he has come to Earth. I bent down and cupped Deep Sea's face. Let's undergo treatment together, okay? We are each other's moon. How could I bear to let your world be without moonlight? I can't bear to let such a good Deep Sea struggle in darkness forever. Chapter 17. I began receiving treatment and was admitted to the first hospital with Deep Sea. It was a bit late. The cancer had already progressed to mid-stage gastric cancer. The surgery was painful, but I dared not show it because Deep Sea was also feeling sorrow for me. I didn't want my pain to add to his burden of guilt. After the surgery, I had to undergo chemotherapy. Each time, it was Deep Sea who pushed me to the chemotherapy room. Members of the Li family came to see me, but I no longer had the strength to stop them. It hurt too much. Deep Sea mainly received medication and psychological counseling, so he was still able to take care of my daily needs. We stayed in the same hospital room. When I couldn't sleep due to pain, he would read stories to me. When I was happy, he read Andersen's fairy tales. When I wasn't, he read ghost stories, insisting on scaring me into his arms before he was satisfied. He liked to rest his chin on my shoulder, barely touching, afraid of hurting my waist. I told him I wanted to eat seafood porridge, but he said no, I couldn't have it yet. He deliberately lowered his voice and whispered in my ear that once I recovered, he would take me to Sanya and let me eat all the things I hadn't tried before. Is he even human? He's flirting with a patient. Annoying, yet irresistibly charming. After chemotherapy, I lost a lot of hair. It became sparse, making me look like a comic character with wild hair. In a fit of anger, I shaved my head, now with no hair left to lose. I had Deep Sea help me find various wigs every day. Some weren't even wigs anymore, they looked more like headpieces from historical dramas. He even learned how to style hair buns to match Hanfu, saying that once I recovered, We go to the South China Sea again. Someone came to the door. It was my eldest sister from my previous life. Li Mingzhu, the cherished daughter of the Li family, the eldest child. In my past life, I hadn't met her even until I died. She looked different from when we saw her at Huangshan. Her hair was much shorter. The once radiant heiress was now cautious, even hesitant to knock without gauging our reactions. Although she hadn't seen me in the previous life, she had done plenty to humiliate me. But now, I was too tired to deal with them. Li Mingzhu stared unblinkingly at the wig on my head. Could it be? I reached up to touch my wig. Nope, not crooked. Deep Sea asked if she needed anything. She took out a box, saying it was a wig she made herself, specially brought for me. Did she cut her own hair to make it? For a moment, I felt uncomfortable. In my previous life, my awkward status in the Li family and outside was largely due to this eldest sister. In interviews, she said she only recognized Bianca as her sister, although they weren't related by blood. Their bond surpassed blood relations. When I told her I had gastric cancer and needed money for treatment, she hung up before I could finish speaking. Thinking of her differential treatment in the past and seeing her now was oddly satisfying. Deep Sea politely accepted the gift box. Li Mingzhu pushed her luck, asking if I could try it on. I thought for a moment and directly said I was allergic to the Li family. Touching them could make me vomit at best or break out in hives at worst. I couldn't get close to anyone with the surname Li and needed to maintain a safe distance. Li Mingzhu paused her steps forward and retreated to the doorway. Before leaving, she said sorry to me. She was also reborn and wanted to atone. She said that as a child, she had wished for a sister but had taken the wrong path. She didn't seek forgiveness, only hoped I'd give her a chance to make amends. When it comes to emotions, it's better to sever ties cleanly. If we're going to cut off, let's do it thoroughly. On the last day before leaving the hospital, Simon brought Bianca to see me. Simon forced Bianca to kneel beside my bed. Her eyes were filled with resentment, yet she softly apologized to me. I looked down and noticed Bianca's unnatural right hand. I glanced between Bianca and Simon. The former was furious but didn't dare speak. The latter's aggression was barely contained. Oh my, the Li family members were turning on each other? Bianca had studied violin since childhood. Her hands were incredibly precious. Even when arranging flowers at home, she'd wear gloves. Now, from the unnatural angle of her hand, it was clear it had suffered serious damage. Her hand was twisted out of place, even bearing a dark footprint. Her once fair fingers were swollen and bruised, tinged with purplish-red blood vessels. I said nothing. Bianca knelt on the ground, repeatedly whispering apologies. Simon stood behind her like a watchdog, glaring fiercely. Bianca shrank back, lowering her head even more. Interesting, though I didn't know why they suddenly turned against each other. Based on their performance, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I wanted to leave, but Simon blocked the doorway. You won't forgive her, will you? His gaze was fierce, as if he might strike me next. Realizing he was too harsh, he softened his tone and repeated, "Would you forgive someone who drove you to death?" Simon murmured with a cold laugh. I thought so. His smile grew more menacing. Deep Sea escorted me away as Simon advanced toward Bianca with a sinister grin. For the next 3 years, I didn't see him or Bianca again. I didn't see any of the Li family and had no idea where they went. They didn't report anything to the authorities, pretending as if nothing had happened, just like in my previous life. After recovering, Deep Sea insisted I recuperate in the South China Sea for half a year before allowing me to pursue my own activities. And what would I do? Take my little fans traveling? Of course. I gave away all the items the Li family had previously gifted me to my Livestream fans through giveaways. Occasionally, when Deep Sea bought me quirky little toys, I'd casually include them in the prizes. Ah, the Livestream room was wonderful. My hair had just begun to grow back, still too short to tie up. But Deep Sea and I cherished every little strand, investing a lot of effort into caring for them. 3 years later, Deep Sea and I went to Switzerland. While live streaming our Swiss journey, he proposed to me, dressed in Hanfu. He emerged from around a corner, helped adorn my hair with a pin, and whispered sweet nothings in my ear. "Do you mind my secret?" He said it was my secret to tell or not. And he only regretted not meeting me sooner. He was a rare treasure. My moon. Now, my moon was proposing to me, with love. I privately kept the moon. Epilogue. I am Simon. I indirectly caused my sister's death. After Bianca's global tour ended, we vacationed abroad for half a month before returning home. Upon our return, we were met with Sophia's corpse. Why didn't we receive any calls? Well, Bianca suggested we settle our affairs, turn off our phones, and focus on giving her a truly enjoyable time. How could we have believed her so readily? Sophia truly had cancer. Her haggard appearance last time wasn't due to drug use, she was ill. Regret seems to come with delay. The truth eventually reveals itself. It was many years later when I discovered that Bianca had orchestrated Sophia's death. Bianca had long known she wasn't the Li family's biological daughter. She secretly found her birth parents and instructed them to neglect Sophia, forbidding them from treating her well. As a result, my sister had been unhappy since childhood. That couple appeared kind but constantly restricted her. They continually belittled her, saying, "No one will like you, but we do. Even though we hit and scold you, it's because we care." No parents don't love their child. So my sister likely suffered injuries from a young age. They didn't allow her normal social interactions. She feared communicating with others. That's why she was so flustered and awkward when she first joined the Li family. Even her gastric cancer bore their influence. After Bianca contacted them, their attitude toward my sister worsened drastically. She had little time to rest, had to do extensive housework, and ate leftovers. She rarely had snacks, only moldy nuts the couple discarded. They'd wash, fry them, and give them to her, deceiving her into thinking they were bought for her. How terrible must her life have been not to taste the mold. 7 years after her death, I learned how much pain and despair she endured. Her adoptive parents abandoned her once her true identity was revealed, never answering her calls again. Her biological parents didn't love her. Her siblings didn't love her. Everyone was stingy in showing her kindness. She was like a hedgehog, stubbornly moving forward alone, stumbling and leaving traces of blood. She removed her protective spikes, even kneeling before enemies to survive. I was her closest family, yet I hurt her the most. I hit her. I deserved to die. I had promised countless times as a child that I would protect my sister. I deserve death, but I cannot die. I broke Bianca's violin-playing hands, watching her painfully hide in the basement and wail. She was so brazen that she hadn't even destroyed the evidence. She had a safe containing an old phone. It was the phone my sister used to contact her, begging for money. Bianca deserved to die. We are all sinners. We should spend the rest of our lives in pain and guilt. I committed murder. After killing Bianca, I exposed her sins one by one. She was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a demon in human guise. She killed my sister. We were all her accomplices. Perhaps the heavens pitied my sister's suffering, allowing her, and us, to be reborn. She didn't want to live. We had pushed her to the point where she didn't even desire life. Fortunately, she met deep sea. Otherwise, I couldn't guarantee she'd continue living for our sake. Everything she did after rebirth was to courageously face death. Combined, she hadn't even lived to 35 across both lifetimes, and she was utterly disappointed in this world. She said she would not forgive those who drove her to death. As her brother, I must protect her. I may not appear, but I eliminate all factors that unsettle her. I took Bianca to Myanmar, watching her suffer daily, unable to live or die. Her biological parents would join her there. I witnessed Bianca's last breath before returning home to surrender to the authorities. I am a sinner, living poorly. Perhaps that would make her happy? Sadly, she didn't accept my teddy bear. I buried it at the site of her grave from her previous life. If someone must die, let it be me instead. In the next life, let me still be your brother, or even your father. I will do everything to protect you.